Hello and welcome to another giant couch with me, Andy Rintmore, and
me, Harry Williams.
And so we've just been to see Jackass Forever. It was so hard on the drive home not to talk about it. We came out of the cinema and we were like, no, we won't talk about it. We'll save it for now. So literally everything that we're going to talk about, unscripted. We don't know. I don't even know if you liked the film.
We have made a few notes each of just things to say, but we haven't discussed any of it at all yet. This is all fresh, and this is the day. This is the 4th of February. This is the day the film came out.
Fresh.
Went to see it in the cinema. Packed room. Great stuff.
Good stuff. Good vibe in that theater.
In the theater. Well, as well. I mean, for both you and me. I'm a 25-year-old man. You are a 29-year-old man. This is the first Jackass film I've legally been allowed to see in the cinema.
Yes.
So that's great.
And it's the first one I've seen in the cinema as well. And it's something that I've always wanted to experience because Jackass it's like a genre all of its own, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And it's you can go and watch a comedy, you can go watch thrillers, horrors, action films, Avengers movies, whatever, and you kind of know what you're getting. Yeah. But for me, if someone said, what kind of film would you like to see in a cinema where you think, people might be like whooping and getting wild and cringing and laughing out loud? And I'd probably say, give me fucking Jackass.
Exactly. I think they are well aware of that because this film has been beset with delays. I mean, we can see during the film, Johnny Knoxville starts off with brown hair and ends up with silver hair.
He's hiding that, and then he's like embracing
it. Just embraces it, yeah. So there's clearly been some, it's a long filming process because of COVID and everything. But then also, even once the film was wrapped, they've been delaying the release of it, even though the film has been ready, as far as I understand it, specifically because they think, they wanted consumer confidence to return a bit so that they could have packed cinemas and everyone's groaning and cheering and being sick and, whatever else.
Yeah, I think they should, I think a good promotional material would have been that, to hand out little Jackass branded paper bags. Of course, I'd like pin on my wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, this is my Jackass movie collection here. Growing up, kids now, they've got the Avengers and the Justice League and stuff like that. My guys, when I was probably 11 or 12, Jackass crew. Yeah. If I wanted to be part of something that wasn't a rock and roll band, I wanted to be in Jackass.
Your own Jackass crew.
Yeah. And I had my own little Jackass crew.
So did I.
And we called ourselves Hazardous. And we had our own.
And what sorts of hazardous things did you get up to?
Wearing a helmet and hitting each other with a baseball bat on the head, kicking each other in the nuts, rugby tackles.
Was this filmed? Or
yes,
was this...
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's footage. It's all on like a really old Sony Ericsson mobile phone.
Could you get it over to me so I can edit some in?
That was good. That was good.
It's basically lots of unbroken voices just being like,
oh, go on, hit him again.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my personal Jackass crew, we never went so far as to getting a name. But our lead man, he went by the pseudonym of Daredevil. I shall preserve his anonymity here. And our group disbanded after a very low-speed bike crash that resulted in him breaking his arm. So that was the end of that.
I remember the end of Hazardous for me was because we were just walking around one day and we decided to jump in someone's hedge. Yeah. Because of course we'd all seen the CKY stuff, which was like part of one of the precursor crews to Jackass. Mm-hmm. And in fact, a lot of CKY footage is in the first couple of seasons of Jackass, the TV show. So we were all up on that, and there's a lot of like trolleys in hedges in that
hedges
film.
Look very soft on film, don't they?
But in reality, they're quite scrapey.
Yeah, like a British hedge in November. It's not for the faint of heart,
Yeah, and so we ended up jumping in this hedge and filming it. And turns out that it was like my mum's best friend's mum's hedge.
Right.
And basically word got out that, you know, me and my mates had been jumping in their property, and we were reprimanded.
You were quickly disbanded.
So yeah, but it wasn't, you know, it was sort of lame teenage boys stuff, very like stuff. But it was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, I remember you saying to me once, you were like, Jackass was like our generation's punk, in that there was like Jackass, you know, Dirty Sanchez, the Balls of Steel guys. That was Dirty Sanchez as well, wasn't it? But like,
yes, no, you're right. Pancho, was in Balls of Steel, and then we had the Dudesons as well, and then later on there was Nitro Circus, which wasn't quite Jackass, but without Jackass.
It's that whole sort of like MTV era of just idiots hurting one another in increasingly elaborate ways.
And Viva La Bam.
Yeah, exactly. It was a whole generational thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, it's been 10 years since they've put one out at all. And so, you know, the title of this video is, do the Jackass guys still have it? It's like, you know, even by Jackass 3, you're thinking, are they okay to be doing this? But this is 10 years even after that, you know. So will it be like seeing Johnny Rotten doing a butter advert? Or will they have retained their punk credential?
Right.
Obviously, we already know because we've seen it.
We've seen it.
So, yes.
Yes, they've still got it. And although, I mean, I purposely stayed away from all, well, you know, it's impossible if you've got Instagram and you
see a little
the Jackass World page or whatever it is. It's impossible not to know. I knew Zachass was in it.
Yeah.
Because I've been following him for a few years because he's kind of kept that flame alive.
So I don't know much about this. So has he been doing his own?
He's his own stunt man, basically. He basically has a Jackass show on Instagram. It's not a show. It's kind of clips of him doing Jackass type stuff. And it's basically, well, it's really great to see because he's essentially just a big fan who obviously he's got a tattoo on his sternum of the logo. And he's just been working away at it, and he's, you know, his stunts are good, and then like obviously he gets some influence on Instagram, and he, you know, has some followers, and so it ramps up a little bit, and now I start seeing him hanging out. I start seeing him with Steve-O and stuff, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, because I had thought to myself, I wonder if they do another Jackass film, whether they would get him in as like a cameo appearance. You know, like sometimes, like in this film, you got Tyler the Creator, Eric Andre,
Tori from Mythbusters,
and I thought, hey, maybe they'd get him in on something and just give him a nod. But looks like what they've done is, although they still have it and they're very willing to put their bodies on the line, probably more injuries in this, I think, than in previous ones that I know about.
Yeah,
Johnny Knoxville's brain damage. Steve-O, it looks like Steve-O broke his arm or wrist at some point
in the marching band.
In the marching band thing, not cold out as
the
well.
thing that I've noticed is the hits are just as hard. But I mean, there was literally that side by side comparison of Johnny getting hit by a bull in 2000 and 2020. The flip is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But when he's a young, you know, guy in his 30s, he bounces straight back up. This time he has to be stretchered out of there. So yeah, the Jackass guys still have it. I think that's completely fair to say.
But they're looking at the future.
They have augmented themselves with some like younger cast members. So who else did we have? We had Zach. Poopsy. Was that his name? Poopies. That was it, yeah. Poopies.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
No, I don't.
Because I didn't look at I don't want to know about the trailers. I didn't want to know. I know a little bit about the Margera controversy stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to know much because I find that with these sorts of films is to sell a film like this, you have to almost reveal some of your big acts,
or
some of your big skits, and I don't want to see them. I want them to. I want them to be fair.
Fresh. I think on the Instagram advertising, they would often they obviously had like a few handfuls of clips. Like you had Steve-O when he had all the wasps on his willy, but I don't think you saw. I think it was just like as close in on his face, you know,
just go,
yeah. And I feel like we maybe saw you know, Johnny Knoxville's Icarus stunt.
Yes,
I feel like we just saw that, but they were kind of stripped of context, to such an extent that it wasn't, you know, a total film ruiner. All these trailers,
right? Yeah, and yeah, so what they're looking at is, because in the intro there was a bit of a and maybe it was a surprise to me because like I said, I've been trying to keep away from spoilers and not know too much about it. But it didn't dawn on me until about 10 minutes in that I'm like, oh, they're setting it up for that they can step away from the big stunts, still carry the film because they are Jackass, but then put some younger bodies in the firing line eventually.
Well, exactly. Like, for instance, I think Chris Pontius literally says at that point, like, we've done our dues, we're passing on the torch now.
Yeah.
Like, so, but it's not that they're like copping out. Like, they're still doing it. Like, he's still fucking flattening his willy. I'm going to keep using that word because I'm going to have to use it a lot, and I'm just going to got to choose one. And penis seems too formal for Jackass, so I'm going to go with willy.
I'll go with willy. As well. Willy's
so he puts his willy between two bits of perspex and flattens it. Like that is
like a pancake.
That is the Jackass spirit.
Pancake.
But then the younger, less brittle bones are the ones being fired out of cannons.
Maximum respect to everyone. Preston Lacey in this is hilarious.
Yeah, he is so funny.
He is hilarious. He's always been the sort of the theatre, the thespian of the crew, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been I feel like he had aspirations to be a comedy actor and somehow just found his way into Jackass.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's a proper actor, isn't he? He gets it because there's moments when they're like when they've got that little like ball bag like
that
boxing
so
thing.
horrible.
There's a moment when they're like, okay, we're going again. You almost see him going internally, going and scene. Do you know what I mean? And there's a moment where he sort of resets, and the worry comes back in, and it's a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. But there's a part of me that's like, wow, you're a professional,
what a pro.
man.
But I guess the dilemma at the core of being a Jackass cast member is you don't want the worst stuff to happen to you, but you want to make the edit. So like,
yeah, that's the thing. That is a great point because it is. I don't want to. The Pain Olympics is something else, as some of us might know.
I don't know, so I'm just allow me to be naive. Okay. I feel like I don't need to know this.
I'll tell you later. But it is almost a little bit like a competition, isn't it? Mm-hmm. They don't want to break their bones, but at the same time, they don't want to be stood on the edge going, oh, you know what? That's going to be in all the trailers, that one.
Yeah.
That's a good one, that one. So it's a strange dilemma. I feel like I did miss Bam a little bit, but it was so good anyway that I did. It wasn't until the end that I went, oh, Bam's not in it, is he?
Yeah.
And bless him, all the best to Bam. I did follow him on Instagram, and things got a bit ropey. It looked like he was having some mental issues.
Yeah.
And there was some stuff about him having a restraining order. Yeah. And I thought, oh no, because I don't want these guys to like fall out and stuff, because like I've been watching them since I was 12, and like I it's weird, isn't it? It's weird that if you knew that they'd all fallen out, I'd be like, oh, that sucks. Do you know what I mean? But I think the restraining order was like a business decision for his own good, because he wasn't capable.
I know that Steve-O has explained it on a podcast, and I can't quite remember, but I feel like it was something like, because they started filming with Bam, and then he like, he's got all sorts of addiction issues, and we obviously don't know him. We have no idea what his life's like, so it's not fair to speculate, but it's not good, basically. No. And so I think basically in order to get him removed from the film, you sort of like these contracts are pretty watertight. You know what I mean? Like, I assume they basically had to do that just to sort of make that the case. But then there was all these things about like Bam, like saying how he like wants to kill Jeff Tremaine for having taken him off the film and everything.
Yeah, well, it must be an emotional thing, because it's like you're being kicked out of the party, isn't it? And those are all your mates, and you're doing, and basically Jackass was his life, and if he's having a really shitty time, and he knows they're doing another movie, that's probably a big anchor for him to try and like. So
I think he did film some stuff with them. Right. I don't know for how far in the process he made it.
Yeah, there's a cameo, but I didn't catch it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did some Googling to make sure we got all the new cast members' names. So actually, who else was there, by the way? I feel that we distracted ourselves.
Rachel Wolfson.
Yeah. There was Eric something or other, the British guy. He wasn't in it too much.
No, that was odd. Some of them didn't do an awful lot. And I feel like if there's another film, I'll be way more in their corner. Yes. Like, I'll be like, okay, cool. But it is odd having these new people in this mix.
Yeah.
And you can see that the old cast, the chemistry is still there, but they're trying to bring these people in and bring them into the thing, which is really nice. But there were moments where I thought, some of these guys haven't done a lot, or they haven't had the chance to really show their personality, because this is the thing, they're on the back foot, because we've got 20 years or more of seeing the Jackass crew do Jackass.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole, you're invested in the characters, their personas, and who fucks over who the most, and the little rivalries and those little micro relationships. And then you've got all these new people in, and I feel like they held their own. But it did feel very much like, okay, this is training camp.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they probably, with a film like this, I think there's going to be so much material that they've had to cut out, because it wasn't super long. I don't actually have an exact running time.
No, but it didn't outstay its welcome either.
No, I feel like we were there for, it was under 2 hours, I think.
I think so.
And
it was a good length. When it ended, I was like, oh, it's ending.
But yeah.
But it wasn't like, this is a cop-out and too short. And it wasn't like, oh, God, like...
Exactly, it didn't drag. But so the point I was going to make is that I suspect... the 4.5, which we've seen is confirmed there is going to be a 4.5.
Yes.
I suspect that's when we're going to see some of the, bit more of the interpersonal stuff with them.
Yeah.
And, just maybe a bit more of them. But obviously, this is the Jackass big return. You don't want to put too much of the new people in the big cinema release. I get completely why they did it.
Yeah.
But I think, everyone,
because I'm not paying my money for Rachel Wolfson or Zachass, although I like Zachass.
But, so it was great to be introduced to them, but I'm glad they kept the core of the Jackass guys.
Yeah. It needed that. It wouldn't have been accepted or entertained otherwise.
No. But I would like to see more from them now, and I feel like now we kind of have a handle on them.
Yeah.
I would like to make a point about Rachel Wolfson, if I may.
Yes.
When I saw in that credits, which was really, they've obviously, which actually was something I said to you, I suspected that, the set pieces were going to be a lot bigger in this, because they're obviously going to have a lot more money thrown at them. That fucking ridiculous Godzilla thing where it's Pontius' dick. That was so funny. But then you saw that there was a female cast member, and there was almost a part of me going well, it's one thing men being horrible to each other. It's another thing entirely 10 men being horrible to one woman. But she's one of the boys, I think she really held her own. And when that mime bit where she licks the taser, I was like, fucking hell, she did some gnarly stuff.
She did gnarly stuff.
So that's on me. That reflects poorly on me, not her. Full respect. Just get stuck in. Just get stuck in with it. And I feel like we've all known someone like that who's can just hang with the boys and when disgusting shit. You've drunk
goes
5
down.
pints, she's had 6. Man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're great. Brilliant. The scorpion on the face. Like you said, the mime licking the taser thing, the stun gun.
Yeah. I loved how in that bit as well, how Steve-O forgot it was supposed to be a silent thing. So did his classic Steve-O, I'm going to make it into the movie scream, and then went, oh shit, no, I can't do it.
To be honest, that skateboard guillotine looked pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, goodness me, they really have come up with some cruel and unusual ways of harming each other.
It's almost medieval, isn't it?
Yeah, medieval, but then with modern technology, modern pneumatics to underpin it. Those we've seen the return of the big Jackass hand.
Yeah,
that cannon. That's like the Icarus cannon. That's like one of the biggest set pieces I've seen them do. I think.
I wonder. I mean, just being a nerd here, I wonder what cameras and lenses they were using for that particular shot, because I bet you it wasn't the cameras they were carrying around for the other bits. There's something about that shot that looked very
cinematic,
very good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fucking camera expert, but you can sort of see when it goes behind the scenes. They seem to have fancy mounted tripod cinema cameras, but then you've got GoPros and shaky handheld footage. So spilling bubbles. So it always keeps that that Jackass feel, because obviously in the Jackass TV show, they were not getting filming permits. They were not setting up lights and cinematic cameras. They were getting in there with a camcorder that often would be held by one of them. And it felt chaotic, so it's great that they've kept that. The image quality is good. It looks good on cinema. You don't get like motion sickness from the handheld thing. But they know when to go arty and they know when to go gonzo, don't they? Yeah,
it's brilliant. It sticks to their, I guess it's a house style, isn't it? And it's one that they very much pioneered. And a little bit of history, Jackass came out of a skateboarding magazine called Big Brother. And that's why most of them can skate. And that's where I think a lot of that style comes from, is those skate edits. It's very, all of the early stuff is very skate edit.
Yeah, like a lot of like edits on the beat of music and stuff, and like using punk and rock stuff rather than like score. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and talking about the music, the Misfits, Hybrid Moments is in the big finale.
Was that what that was?
Yes.
Right.
And the only big film I've ever heard the Misfits on the soundtrack for, and the Misfits changed my life. They're one of my favourite bands of all time. They live in my black heart. I love them. But they never really appear in culture beyond maybe a T-shirt in the background somewhere. It's very strange. Like, they're not used in film very often. And it's weird. They've almost got a bit of mystery still to them. And it was so good to hear them just blasted through a cinema screen. The only other big film I've seen them in was in the background of a sort of slightly druggy sex scene in Halloween, one of Rob Zombie's Halloween films.
Right.
And that was just kind of in the background, and only Misfits nerds would pick up that it was Misfits Halloween 2. But just to hear it being like on a Jackass thing, it was the blending of the two things that like the TV that kind of changed my life and put me in a punk rock trajectory, and the music that changed my life and put me in a punk rock, just coming together. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. And they used Stiff Little Fingers in it as well. The soundtrack for this film is kind of sparse in terms of the songs that they're using. Because there's a lot of their own sort of like
there's a lot of score in this, isn't there?
I feel like the main soundtrack of Jackass is the sound of their bodies thumping into the ground, isn't it?
Which, let me just say, you notice in a cinema just how sweetened every single impact in that is.
Yeah.
Every time there's a thump or something hits into it. One bit I noticed in particular was that really funny bit when they pretend there's a snake in the room and then turn all the lights off, and then there's an escape route and there's a load of frying pans. A pan came in and hit, Dave England like, dook, but it goes like clang, and like in the slow-mo shots of the scorpion going into the boat hole. It sounds like you're fucking ripping a watermelon open,
right?
And I suspect someone probably was.
Yes.
But so yeah, like it literally is a lot of what we just need to hear is just them being hurt in time with a bit of drum and bass here and there, and that's fine,
And they use the music really well, because in the build-ups to a lot of stunts, you'll have some rock playing, or you'll have some hip-hop stuff playing, or you'll hear a bit more of like sort of stuff going on. But then it cuts just before the chaos, just before the impact.
Yeah.
So you get this, it's almost like, it's kind of subconsciously like the DJ going, whoop, and everyone just having that awkward silence. That's what they do with the sound in that film, is it just cuts just at that right moment to get that. Oh, is he okay? And it creates drama and tension, and they make you tense, like, oh, is he all right? And then all of a sudden someone will lean in and just like with some like crafty one-liner and totally just like slice through the atmosphere and just like make it all okay again.
Exactly. And that's what we love about Jackass, I think, isn't it? It's basically at the core of it, it's the same people doing severe damage to one another, but then making sure they're okay.
One of them jokes about it.
Well, one of them jokes about it. Yeah. I mean, God, can you just imagine like the persistent anxiety that must be on a Jackass set? Like there was that repeated gag that they seem to get like nearly everyone on the production with, of the catering van that was rigged with a punch bag.
Yeah.
And then they got the same guy twice.
Yeah, and I do like, can you remember Clipper Cam?
Yeah,
from,
classic.
I can't remember what one that was.
I
But
feel
yeah,
like that was mostly a Jackass 2.
I think it was Jackass 2. But yeah, it's that kind of thing, isn't it? Where it's like, at some point during this film, most people are going to get done by it.
Yeah.
And they know that that gag is lingering.
Yeah.
And they don't know where.
Can I just say, how after 20 years of working on Jackass sets would you still trust a blue porta potty nearest where you're all sat?
Right.
Like, go to the one the crew use by,
Yeah.
you know, like...
Go to the one you've seen, the camera, the sound guy.
Yeah, or you know, the producers or the catering staff. Go use their toilet. Don't go to the one that's set up right next to you. So, every time...
And why are they filming in that moment as well? Like, do you know what I mean? If a camera's rolling...
Yeah.
Guards
I'm
up.
sure that they are the fucking masters of discreetly filming them by now. Like,
sure.
It's Jeff Tremaine, the main one,
Yes.
isn't he? He's
a sadist.
He's like an evil little puppet master. And particularly in this one, a lot of the time he'd sort of, like in the older ones, he'd be over in the corner sort of laughing. But there's something more sinister now about he'll be off in a gallery or in a broadcast truck somewhere, just going like... Shut the doors, release the snake. You know, like the evil little puppet master.
And I love it when he clearly walks in and he goes, his talent, if we could use that sort of terminology for this, his talent is fucked. And he goes, gonna need one more, guys. There's a special type of director that can get that out of, and that's a dynamic as well, is being able to walk into a room after someone's just like been hit by a fucking bull or something and go, that's really great. Do you think we can get another one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And them go, oh, for fuck's sake. And they do it anyway. Like, it's a strange, like, you have to have worked with people for 20 years and then be like, well, he hasn't got me killed yet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, it's brilliant. He's a fucking sadist.
He's a very cruel man.
He loves it. I would like his job. I'd love to be in Jackass. I'm just putting that out there. Not that it's going to happen.
I wouldn't. I couldn't handle the constant dread.
I just like to be like a cameo guy that's like, and they're like, hey, we've lubed up this slide here.
Oh, the lube slide was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where I'd be like, yeah, fuck it, all right, I'll do it, and I'd go for it.
Yeah.
I might even
maybe
jump
you could be like a guest sport person to like, because they just get someone on who's like a master of basically throwing or hitting something very hard, and then get them to do it to danger Ehren. Oh, and they fucking set a bear on him. They cover him in honey and salmon and put a bear on him.
That was nuts. That was some real tension in that.
That was felt there was real stakes.
Yeah, when he went round his arm, and when they got the bear Wrangler in,
and he's like, guys, I gotta get in there.
Yeah, I felt like it took him too long.
Yes,
to get in. Like, yeah, I feel like there was some mini assault course he had to go through to get. It was only a door, but I feel like he could, if stuff went south, then he couldn't get in there quick enough.
No, it would be awkward if a primary cast member was eaten by a bear.
Right.
And that, I think that and that poor guy really got fucked, didn't he? Because he also was the victim of the cup test 20 years on.
Danger Ehren really gets the brunt of stuff over the years. He's
they pulled his tooth out with Bam's Lambo, didn't they? And that was a Jackass 2 classic.
Did you see Blind Skateboarding?
Was that the
TV show?
No, I don't
just put a blindfold on him and he made him drop in on a half pipe.
Oh,
just fucking annihilated himself.
Yeah.
And it's just he will take a battering. Dave England seems like he will just disgrace himself.
Yeah,
and take a battering.
Yeah,
but Danger Ehren really gets the.
He seems to be the victim of this film, doesn't he? So what? Yeah. So, but the two most visceral reactions that I can remember from sort of, the general public mood in the cinema was that bit when they pogo stick and it pins his ball bag to the ground, and then they show you what it looks like, and it doesn't look like a healthy ball bag to me anymore.
No.
There's that bit, and the bit when the bear is like, and that fucking like door comes up, and you're like, well, what's going to be behind that?
Yeah.
I was expecting maybe like, Steve-O with a cattle prod, or like, a small household alligator.
Right.
Not a fucking bear.
A brown bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Australian beast wrangler, though. I thought he was a great addition to the film, actually.
Yeah, we talking about the guy that was dealing with the snake.
Yeah,
and,
the Australian guy who's got snakes, and he's a nasty bastard.
He was very funny, and he seemed to really relish in their pain.
Yeah,
but this guy again, fucking sadist.
a real. So he's just loving it. He's just sort of finding it all so funny. Like, and another shout out to Darkshark, Jasper's dad.
Yeah,
who like there's a few things where like he's sort of hanging around most of the time. They rope him in a few times. One is they get to take a selfie with a vulture. And then the other one is they put that tank over him, and again, danger Ehren. They have to blow a spider towards each other. And then at one point, he's got one hand on the fucking Australian Wrangler guy, the other hand on Johnny Knoxville. And he just completely shuts down. He stops doing all that, like, oh, hell no. And just fucking just goes quiet and just goes,
Yeah, at one point I thought, has he passed out from fear?
Yeah,
because he just went a bit weird.
Yeah,
and everyone, you could tell the mood in the room went a bit like, oh,
yeah.
Is he all down okay?
Yeah.
And I love that there's a little bit of backstory that he's just got out of prison. And
was that real? I missed that.
Well, I guess it. Well, you did go to the toilet at one point. Maybe that was.
Maybe I missed that.
Anyway, so his thing is that he's fresh out of prison, or he's been to prison, and he's still got a bit of that sort of lockup. I'm hard. I don't know if that ever leaves you. I don't know how long he was in prison or what kind of prison, because there's different prisons in America, isn't there? But I guess there's that element of like, there's a bit of front, isn't there? And you got to be alpha.
Yeah.
Because if you're weak, you won't survive.
Yeah.
And so part of I guess the angle of the jokes on him is just breaking down.
It's just undermining his alpha image, isn't it? And it's undermined by I admit it,
breaking a hardened criminal.
Yeah, but admittedly, I wouldn't want to be, bound between two fish tanks with a lethal arachnid, crawling between us, and nor would I want to have a vulture stand on my arm. But I don't.
Seemed all right.
I don't know.
We had that glove on.
There's something about vultures. They're sort of. They're like, I feel like it activates a bit of fucking caveman DNA when you see a vulture.
They're a bit menacing.
You're like, we shouldn't be seeing these. This death is nearby.
Yes, yeah. Totally.
So I wouldn't fancy doing that. But I'm not fresh out of prison and pretending to be very masculine. So
it was great. And shout out to him for getting involved.
Yes.
And that's a good dynamic. We've had this dynamic in Jackass before, the father-son thing, with Phil Margera.
Yeah.
I used to really enjoy Phil's moments in Jackass.
Did you?
I did.
See, I think this is where you and I differ. I only like Jackass when they're doing it to each other.
Right.
When I feel that they're doing it to someone who isn't fully in on it, all of a sudden it feels cruel to me.
Oh, he loves it.
But do you think he actually loved it?
I think he loved it. I think he loved it.
I think he probably wouldn't have allowed them to film Jackass 2, 3...
Right,
as also
and
the
essentially raise the cast of Jackass from some 8 or half the cast of Jackass seem to grow up in that house.
Yeah,
I think he looks at his son and thinks, "Yeah, go on."
At least he's making a living out of it,
right? I don't know. I mean, when he took a piss on him when he was asleep, for me, I was like, "That is kind of funny." But for me, I was a bit like, I don't think I could ever piss on my dad when he's in bed. But when he did that thing where he covered over the bit in the garden because he's got that ride-on lawnmower.
I don't.
You've not seen that? There's a ride-on lawnmower, and I can't remember if it's his mum. I don't know if it's April Margera or Phil, but Bam makes a hole in the ground. It's very autumnal. There's loads of like dead leaves everywhere. Makes a hole in the ground, covers it over with some sort of like crash pad, and then covers it in leaves. And there's this whole like sort of hidden camera thing of them being like, well, I better mow the lawn. And then you see him mowing the lawn on this ride-on thing, and then all of a sudden they're like, into the ground. It's great. It's great. So it's good to see that dynamic back in Jackass.
Still represented,
that sort of father-son sort of like, you're crazy, boy. And then, but also that sort of like, not just living vicariously, just sort of like, come on, old timer, you've still got a bit of life in you yet.
I mean, I have to say, wee man super gluing himself to Phil's chest is probably one of the highlights of the whole thing, to be honest. But Wee man, great to see they can still fucking send him flying.
Yeah.
That was another bit where the veil slips a bit of they playing those musical chairs, and he fucking goes backwards into all the rigging.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh shit, we hadn't really planned for that." Like,
yeah,
because obviously, I imagine, this is a Paramount production at the end of the day. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more people looking concerned with clipboards and doing, risk assessments than they'd like to show us,
Yes.
But they still managed to get these things approved.
I imagine every member of that cast has a hefty life insurance policy, and that much of that production or the signing off of things on that production are because they have life insurance policies.
Legal waivers.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. It was good to see the bad grandpa character come back into the fray.
Yeah,
I like they're keeping him alive.
I like the fact that, because again, there's just something about it when in the bad grandpa bits. Was that 2 and 3 or just 3?
Oh, I feel like there's a genesis of his character in like the TV show. It's somewhere in the old times, where it was just something they did.
So whichever it is, they were some of my least favourite bits,
right?
Because I don't really like the ones where it's basically just taking the piss out of a regular person doing their job. I just don't like it.
Right.
I think it's mean spirited somehow, and so in this one they just sort of keep him as a figure of fun and launching him up into some fucking ceiling. He's not having to have any weird interactions with someone who's being paid minimum wage.
Yeah,
they're just putting on a spectacle. Yeah, and it's in some of the older ones, I know there's one where he steals a bike from a showroom. I love all that stuff. Yeah. But the ones where he'd be have a sort of young looking actress with him who sort of looked under 18, but clearly wasn't, and would start making out with his granddaughter. I hated all that stuff. I really did not I don't like seeing members of the public being the butt of the japery, basically.
Right.
And so I think they got the balance right for that. And so to me, Bad Grandpa used to represent everything I didn't enjoy about Jackass.
Right.
But I feel they've got him right, and they're basically just making a frail old man put in harm's way without actually having to harm a very old man.
It's great. And I like I said, I like that they're kind of keeping him alive a little bit
in the universe,
because it's if Johnny, because Johnny sustained. What did he get? A broken rib, broken wrist, and he was saying on Howard Stern that he got brain damage from that stunt with the bull, and it took him a few months to get his cognitive functions back to a healthy spot.
Yeah,
he's not doing that stuff forever.
No,
and that's the point of this film, is that sort of handing over the torch. And I feel like Bad Grandpa is something they're keeping alive because that's something he can continue to do.
Yeah.
As well as be, hey, I'm Johnny Knoxville and this is Jackass 6, and do something. So yeah, I do like that. I did enjoy the Bad Grandpa film. It was a bit patchy. There were, like you said, there were moments where it was a bit like, oh.
I haven't actually seen the whole film of it.
Oh, you haven't?
I'm just talking about the sequences where that character would appear in 3 and 2.
Okay.
I can't specifically remember where he's in, but he's that thing. I feel like they've had Johnny Knoxville dressing up as an old man since pretty much day dot, haven't they? I mean, to be fair, give it another 10 years, they won't even need any prosthetics.
They won't just become that. Yeah, it was cool. It was good to see the new guys getting fully stuck in. I mean, they almost have to prove it, don't they?
Yeah.
The British guy, I can't remember his name.
I think his name was Eric Manaka or something like that. I can't remember his last name.
Maybe I'll have a look. Let's get this right. Yeah, Eric Manaka. I don't feel like I saw an awful lot of him in this. Maybe he'll shine in 4.5.
Yeah, it might just be that he's did some amazing stunts, but they just weren't quite what they needed for the final edit. I feel like we maybe saw him, drink a bit of pig cum or something,
Animal cum
or
returns.
Maybe, I feel like we saw most of the cast slide down that ramp in the desert, didn't we?
Yeah, that was great. Great to see Tony Hawk.
He was in the intro, wasn't he?
He was in the intro.
Yeah.
Great to see him take a cummy spill. I like Tony Hawk. I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago. He's a very nice guy, and very on brand for him to do something which is sort of self-depreciating and just kind of fun. And he's been in the Jackass universe since day one, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like he did that. Was it the ramp that?
Oh,
the
the
360 ramp. Maybe that was Matt Hoffman. I can't remember. But he's been spiritually linked with them for quite some time, hasn't he?
And he was in Haggard, which was Bam's independent film. That when Jackass was at its height, Bam made an actual like film, called Haggard. And I think I haven't seen it actually. I should see it. But I think it's about some guy that's kind of heartbroken and stuff. And there's like a few like dumb stunts that are in a film. So it's not like breaking the fourth wall like Jackass does, but it's kind of like, oh, that's a real Jackass stunt in a scripted part of a film, something like that. And Tony Hawk's in that, and he plays a cop.
Yeah.
And he has a scene with Ryan Dunn where he asks him why he's breaking bottles. And it's something to do with that anyway. But yeah, so he's been ingrained in all of their productions and in their thing. So it was great to see. It's great to see him. Yeah, that intro. What did you think of that intro?
I have to say, I was initially a little bit concerned.
Yeah,
because I thought, like, they've all started with like a little bit of a sort of cinematic thing, but never to this extent. But then obviously, like when you kind of realise what's going on, I think when I first relaxed, was when it cut out and it had all of them going, fucking Pontius's Willy painted like Godzilla.
Yeah, I was the same.
That's when I first relaxed there, and then it's the classic. You know, you've got Wee Man and Dave England up putting the Jackass sign, and they yank him off, and you know that's great. And they always do that, don't they? They do the sort of they kind of start and end each of it with a slightly more kind of artificial sequence.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was so much, as well as the big set pieces, they still make sure they put in all those bits of them, you know, shooting the shit and like the pre and post stunt stuff. Like there was that whole one of Preston where we never even saw the stunt because it just got distracted with him shitting himself. And then that was the thing. It's just, and him being like, I'm a 50-year-old man covering my own shit. Like, that's kind of what we want to see at the end of the day. It's just them being humiliated, regardless of whether or not there is a stunt to accompany it.
Yeah, and there's almost a strange comfort in it as well, as that you know we don't want to see these guys because they're larger than life, and we don't want to see them age and grow old and be vulnerable and be beaten. And it's weird because you shouldn't want to see someone who's 50 years old shit themselves.
Yeah,
but there's something about it where it's kind of like you almost want them to exist in a vacuum, never age, never get old, and it just continues.
Like the
forever.
Simpsons have been the same ages for 30 years now, haven't they?
You just sort of you just never want them to age. You know, I want to be old as hell, sit back and watch Jackass 10 or something, and them still be at it. Do you know what I mean? So there's something. There's a weird comfort in that he's like, I'm 50 and I've shit myself. It's like, great, you haven't changed. Good.
Exactly. I mean, we got exactly. That's what I mean. I think Jackass 2 was the one that was very poo heavy, and
very scat.
It was too much in some ways. But you've got all the classic things you want from a Jackass film. You've got Lance vomiting all the time, you know,
and they know when he's going.
They know when he's
coming
going.
and taking the camera.
Someone
off
comes
him.
and gets the because it completely. He is a
consumes
very
him.
professional man, but once the vomiting comes, all his training is forgotten at that point, isn't it? So you've got that. You've got Wee Man getting launched into space. You've got the larger cast members doing absurd things. I mean, that what was the very first stunt was them stacking each other up and using each other as ramps, wasn't it? And at that moment, you're just like, yeah, okay, we can relax.
Well, it's good because like I don't know if you'll get a more iconic opening than Jackass the movie.
What, chasing like the bulls chasing the shopping trolley?
No, that's Jackass 2.
What's one?
So Jackass 1 is them in the giant trolley. And it boom,
yeah.
And they're coming out of the smoke and they're all like slapping the side of the trolley, and then obviously they hit the fruit stand or something, and they all get individually launched through windows, and they all and then the scenes after is like figuring out who landed where and trying to find them and what sort of state they're in. Jackass 2 was the one with the bulls. That was savage. that was like, oh my God, if that's
Yeah.
the start of the film. But yeah, like you said, just going back to that having that big movie thing, because it's almost self-referential in the fact that Knoxville's a movie star and they can all do a bit of acting at this point, and they do have to up the game. I did want a bit more actual chaos, like the balls or the big
I know what
trolley
you mean.
in the beginning.
Well, because in the third one, the way they do that is really good. Where they set them up, and don't they they're like paintballing them or something because it looks good in 3D or whatever.
Right.
But then just like an enormous tidal wave comes from like behind the set and like washes them down an artificial river they've built. I know what you mean. There wasn't quite that moment when they're like
Mass pain.
when it goes from, okay, we're doing a bit of acting here, a bit of like a stunt set piece, to just like, no, give them hell, boys, you know.
Yeah, I wanted a bit of the give 'em hell.
Yeah.
But it sets the tone, and you think, God, they're older, they've got kids and families. No, straight in with a dick puppet, you know, and come everywhere.
And then the human ramp is the first real sketch.
And it's back to the roots.
Yeah.
And that's the point. It's back to they've been doing that in CKY. You know, making shitty wooden ramps and just driving off them on little tiny motorbikes and just seeing half the ramp come apart when they're halfway up it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. It's just bam, straight back into the roots of the thing. It sort of almost felt like it was a crescendo from there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Jackass should be, is this gradual upping of the ante.
Upping the ante.
But yeah, it was great. It was great to see. And I think that intro, going back to the intro, is the best way to introduce that new cast.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's like, who's that flying in the air? Do you know what I mean? It can't be done like that.
Yeah. So all the new ones, they had them come in those sort of army fatigues, didn't they?
Introducing.
And it was like introducing the new people. Yeah, I thought that was really good. The self-referential aspect of things, it's kind of all peppered throughout, isn't it? There's a few moments where it's very on like they're literally redoing the cup test.
Yeah.
You know, redoing the bull thing. And then over the final credits, I love when they were doing like, they had like a little like split screen thing side by side of each person, like now and then.
Yeah.
And it's like Dave England shitting in a toilet in 2002, horrible digital footage. And then him, 50 years old, doing the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah.
And like Knoxville taking the same hit from the bull twice. There were lots of like parallels in there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And then a few shots of Ryan Dunn. And then they didn't make a big thing. There wasn't a big on-screen text. But the music that was playing at that point, the rapper in his verse said like, rest in peace, Ryan Dunn, when he showed him. And it's like, you know, him, I felt that because Bam wasn't there, I didn't quite miss Ryan as much because they were kind of the double act in a way, weren't they? They were properly like that. Yeah. And so I see why it would have been hard for Bam to return to that. But I thought that was a really nice bit of sort of showing how they've kind of come all this way, but they're still the same fucking idiots they always were. Yeah.
and it lends itself again to the forever. Yeah. It's like we're always going to be like this. But also, like we were saying, with a new cast, we create a new lineage. And I do like that to begin with. When it dawned on me, I was a bit precious about it. I felt a bit like,
but I mean,
really sure I want these guys to become
Jackass 2 had some additionals from Jackass 1, didn't it? So for the TV show, there was kind of like two Jackass crews, and they never really mixed. And then, you know, in Jackass 1, those two teams come together. And then by the time of Jackass 2, they've augmented that with some more people. So I'm perfectly happy for them to bring people in and out. But
yeah, I'm happy for more. I would never say no to more Jackass films, even if they're shit. Yeah. Because no one's taking away the old ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Still enjoy the old stuff. And if there's a chance to see Steve-O, Knoxville, Pontius, England, Danger Ehren, whatever, Preston, Wee Man, hanging out and laughing at others. Yeah. And maybe getting them to redo stunts that they had once done. Yeah. There's still an awful lot of value.
Do you think it might sort of morph into them kind of being the cruel taskmasters, and there's a kind of, you know, they're like the producers almost. They're the ones up in the gallery going, pour a snake on his head, pour a snake up his bum, you know, doing all this shit.
That rattlesnake up his arse. Yeah. Yeah. I would like to see that. I think that would be a good continuation. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was good to see the reference to Ryan Dunn. There was a rumor a few years back I guess some graphic designer or someone knocked something up on Photoshop, and it was like this, like, new Jackass film teased, and they were going to call it Jackass. We're not done yet.
Right.
D-double-N. And I thought that was kind of a cool name, but it's 10 years, time has passed.
Yeah, I think, like, I remember when Ryan Dunn died, it was quite shocking in a way, really, wasn't it? Because I think the Jackass guys kind of felt invincible.
Yeah.
And then he just, died by just being very careless.
Yeah.
Out of hours, And, but it's not as present as it was in the culture now, Like,
Right.
if you're 18 and you've been to see this film today, you were like, 8 when the last one came out?
Yeah.
You're not going to know who Ryan Dunn is. So they put him in there, they put that tribute in there to him. But if they'd call it like, we're not done yet, people would just be like, why have they spelled done wrong?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it would land because I think it had been too long. Right, so I feel like we've kind of been zigzagging around. It's great, we've been bouncing all over the place. Maybe should we just say like a few of like the standouts, stunts or moments from the film, and then we'll kind of wrap this up and let people get on with their very busy lives.
Yeah, all right, I'll go first. I enjoyed the bear. I don't know what it was called. It was the bear something.
Oh, it did come up with a little title. Who knows? But we know the bit you mean, the bear bit.
The bit with the bear. The Icarus thing was great.
Mm-hmm.
The ball thing was cool. I'm sharp because I don't want to steal all the ones that maybe you were thinking of.
Yeah, no, that's all good. 3 seems suitable. I think my favourite moment of the whole film was when that MMA fighter punched Danger Ehren in the balls, and he was up on a chair in front of like a garage door.
Yeah.
And then when you see the slow motion replay, he basically just sort of slides down the garage door. I fucking love that.
And there's a moment where his hand is just like, just really frantically just trying to move this fucking chair out the way. So
and he slides down the remainder of the wall because he was balancing on a chair. So I loved that. I'm a big fan of just lubricating up a big ramp and sending people down it. That to me is Jackass at its core.
Yeah.
Because it's low budget, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've got some bottles of baby oil, a hill, and some tarp.
Yeah.
And then they just then fucking send each other down it.
And just go down in like increasingly stupid ways.
Yeah, like, they'll tie two of them together, dress them as a fucking horse. That horse one, mate, the fact that his arms had to be tucked in, that is so horrible.
He goes, oh, he's not moving. And one of
Yeah.
them goes, well, his fucking arms are tied together.
Yeah.
That's great. That was the stuff I used to really love Jackass for. Is like I said, the chemistry between the guys is like a little motley crew. But just watching them spill, just all the ways that they could ragdoll.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like even in video games now, if there's a good ragdoll, sometimes I'm like, oh wow, he went flying, didn't he? Like, he did 2 backflips or something. Do you know what I mean? Look how he folded round that lamppost. Do you know what I mean? Like even to this day, ragdoll physics and just physics of people flying through the air.
It's just funny.
I just find it fascinating.
Yeah,
It's very funny. I love it. But yeah, it was great, and it's good to see Steve-O clearly in a very good place.
Do you know what I have a lot of respect for Steve-O. I think he's like, I mean, even for Jackass 3, I think he was sober for a lot of that, to be fair. So it's kind of old news at this point. But the fact he's managed to get sober and stay sober, but he's still gnarly as ever. Steve-O gnarly. He'll still do it.
Yeah.
And like, I get the sense that he lives his life in a very wholesome way now. Yeah. But he's still prepared to get put in a porta potty and launched into space. Yeah. I think I'm going to say that actually is my final moment that I'd like to give an honourable mention to. Is when he goes to the porta potty and it doesn't fly up in the air. They don't throw up all the shit at him, but just all of a sudden he is just, you're in a porta potty and then bam, you're outside again. There's no more porta potty. You're just in the world again.
Dude, I was just trying to take a shit, man.
Yeah. So yeah, right. We somewhat clickbaitedly entitled this video, do the Jackass guys still have it, to use as a smokescreen for me and you just talking about Jackass for an hour. I do hope you've enjoyed it. But in conclusion, in relation to our original premise, Yes, they do.
Yes.
But they are handing on the torch, and they're not going to outstay their welcome, are they?
No. And like we were saying, would be so great to, you know, obviously they will be the brand. And it's great to know that there's maybe a future in Jackass beyond them. But I definitely would like to see them, you know, in the mix somewhere.
Yeah, I think you know, the thing to do, I like, you know, the originals to have their firm hand on the tiller.
Yeah.
But you know, I think maybe they're kind of grooming that Zach guy to kind of be the new, you know, captain. Possibly. Or maybe, do you know,
He got a lot of love in that edit.
Yeah, he did. Even though there was a bit where he said, like, it doesn't matter what I say to the camera, none of it's going to make it in, which I thought was quite funny. I think maybe that could be a good thing of, I think having Rachel as kind of like the Knoxville, you know, the kind of, you know, dishing out the cruelty. I think that could be an interesting way to use her. But yeah, I thought overall, I like, just what a fucking fun way to spend 90 minutes in a cinema.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fucking, and it's not going to win an Oscar, is it? It's not, you know, it's not Schindler's List. But like, I have had a very enjoyable evening.
Yeah.
Just watching that in a room of 150, 200 people, groaning, laughing, just having a good time.
Wincing. You can almost feel people just doing that around you, can't you?
There's a lot of hunched shoulders in that room.
Yeah. And in closing, is that we love to see the you know, the boys have still got it. We obviously very much enjoy watching them put themselves on the line, and we enjoy watching them embarrass themselves, humiliate themselves, take a spill, knock themselves out sometimes. It's all enjoyable stuff, but that Knoxville thing, knowing that he got brain damage from that, there's a part of me that's like, thank you for doing it. It was entertaining and proper Jackass, but we love you. And it's time now, if that's time for you to take a step back, you've done enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you've done. Don't fuck yourself forever. Like, we want you around. We love you lots. So time to put the young bodies in the firing line, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just do what you can handle. But don't fucking get in front of a bull again. I don't want to see Knoxville knocked out, going out on a stretcher again. Because at this point, they're old friends, and we want them around. But they've still got it.
They absolutely still have it. They absolutely still have it.
Yeah, beautiful. Go and see Jackass Forever wherever you can see it. See it in the cinema. I feel like it's one of those films. Yes, it would be great on Netflix with a couple of friends around, or whenever it's out on Blu-ray, wherever it'll stream. But definitely, if you can, go and see it in the cinema. Go and watch it in a room full of people. There's an atmosphere, a little bit like stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
it's just something to it. So get out there and see it. They've still got it, but you know, it's time for the new generation, I think, isn't it? I'm interested to see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm. You have served honourably over the years, gentlemen. Please go and enjoy a lengthy, healthy retirement. And thank you for this last offering.
Yeah.
Until Jackass 4.5.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. We will go now. Goodbye.
Bye.